Welcome to the channel, welcome to the channel, welcome to the channel, yeah. Greetings and salutations, my lovelies. This is Kamaria, or Black Siren Creates, and I thought we'd do a little update in my reading journal. I haven't been motivated to journal at all, so it's the middle of October, and I just am now putting in my September stats. It's fine. This, in case you're new here, this is my B5 8 by 11-ish reading journal. I set this up back in December, and I didn't have a lot of pages, so I kind of have a lot of pages already set up, predetermined, depending on how much paper I had left. This is a Kikuyo spiral notebook, but it's you can open and close it, so I can move my pages around. So I like the flexibility of that. And I had gotten this as my planner one year off of Jet Pens, and just want to get my money's worth out of it, because the paper to get 200 sheets is $5. So anyway, I have my yearly setups in the front. I don't think I have any thing to add to those. I have some, yearly readathons, like the Buzzword Readathon, hosted by Books and Lala. I have a bingo. I have my color in a book, a box every time I read a book. But once I get past 100, I kind of don't care. And we're at 122. So I'm just going to put in my stats for September. I had originally made 2 different pages for September, but I didn't really need it. It was my birthday month, and I thought that I was going to be more active than I was, and I wasn't. So, oh well. But I have 2 pages for it, so here we go. I read, I think, 13 books in September, 3,500 pages. My top genres for September were actually a little different. I always have lots of gay books because I like to read queer, the LGBT, the Alphabet Mafia all year. So that wasn't a surprise. But what was a surprise is I had more contemporary books, which I don't really read contemporary usually. And YA, which I like a good YA, but being 37 years old, sometimes it's hard to get myself in the headspace of a YA, so I was very surprised that I actually read a lot of YA in September, enough for it to be one of my top genres. And then I also like to tag my books depending on the category it falls in, because I'm a huge stats nerd, and I like to keep track of what I'm reading. So, I break it down by demographic. So, is it queer? What kind of queer is it? So I separate male, sapphic, trans, non-binary. I also separate by ethnicity. I also like to highlight if it has disability representation, which could be physical or mental. Just so I like to hold myself accountable, not like it's a problem for me, because I read across the board and quite eclectically. But I just like to see the stats at the end of the year. So I'm just kind of writing in my stats in this big giant page. I did not need all the space. So I'll just kind of fill in some of this video with me just talking about some of the books and some of the readathons that I did in September, and what I plan on doing in October. And there's another surprise readathon that I joined halfway through the year. It's duration. So September, I did the Magical Readathon. It's hosted by G over at Book Roast, and it's like a D&D type game readathon. and you pick a character. You are going to magic school, and you have prompts based on classes you take at magic school, based on, you know, what job you want to have in this magical world. It was always a good time. I was in the Discord. I don't really participate in a lot of these readathons, like with words. I'm a lurker for sure. I just kind of watch what everybody else is doing and getting into, and I might like things because, you know, there's something about being in chat rooms that scares me. It's fine. But I completed all my prompts. I passed all my classes at magic school. It was hit or miss on the books that I read. I read Pumpkin Spice and Poltergeist. That's a sapphic book. It had all the fall vibes. It, because that was the prompt. It was an autumn prompt. I feel like I'm always going to have a problem with, like, contemporary sapphic romances because they're not written in a way that I enjoy. I like fantasy books that have a sapphic, you know, romance subplot preferred, but whatever. It was mid. I think the character development wasn't that great. It was kind of insta-lovey. It wasn't, there was ADHD representation, so that was great, but it didn't blow my mind. It was meh. I had a couple of really good hits. I read What the River Knows, which is a YA. It's basically like The Mummy, but if more of the characters were people of color. The main character is, I think, Argentinian and Bolivian, and her parents die, and she kind of goes to Egypt to figure out what happened to her parents. Of course, she meets a guy, but there's magic, there's conspiracies, so many twists and turns. The way you could tell that the author loved Egypt, like did a lot of research, and some of the descriptions of, you know, the landscapes and the artifacts, and just giving to the history of Egypt and how it was occupied and people were raiding pyramids and stuff. I really, really liked it. We had a slow burn kind of romance, and they had that yearning because it's set in, like, I want to say early 1900s, late 1800s. So, you know, you had that yearning romance. The main character is a teenager, but she's very headstrong. She's very, she wants to make her own way in the world in a time where women weren't really given any freedom to do so. It was a really good time. It was my 5-star favorite of the month. It was so, so good. So many twists, so many turns. It ends on a cliffhanger, but it was a really good time. Another favorite that I had that was more kind of fluffy and didn't require a lot of brain thought. I read The Entanglement of Rival Wizards by Sarah Rosh. And, you know, this is just your standard enemies to lovers. They're at magical college. They hate each other at first, and then hate turns to love, and it deals with a lot of heavy-hitting subjects, so it's not just a fluffy good time. Like, there's trauma, there's PTSD, there's lots of things that go on, anxiety, there's a panic attack on page, like, but, like, it's full of banter. There's you know, a fox familiar. The spicy scenes be spicy, and it was just a great time. I've never had a bad time with that author, so that's good. And then I think I read one more book for the readathon, but it's escaping me, and that probably means that it wasn't great. I read a lot, y'all, and sometimes things fly away. I did read a couple of other books that were kind of mad. I read a trans sports romance called The Prospects. It was fine. I liked it. I read a whole bunch of manga that has a trans character in it. I think I read 4 volumes of manga. It was fine. It was great. I read a really disappointing hockey romance, but I also sometimes don't like reading like straight male female romances because it's always usually full of misogyny and gender tropes that I don't particularly enjoy. Oh, I also read a dark romance called Caught Up, and that was just a mess and a half. All I have to say is, are the dark romance girlies okay? Are y'all okay? I feel like y'all just need a good therapy session, because I read that book and I was like, who in their right mind would think that stalking is romantic? But if you like it, you like it. It's not for me. Right now on the screen, getting back to what's happening in my reading journal, I'm setting up my pages for Black Readathon. This is a readathon that usually takes place every October, hosted by Bree over at Locked Booktition. It's basically promoting Black authors in the crime fiction genre. So mysteries, thrillers, suspense, horror, ghosties, ghoulies, beasties, all that. Vampires, whatever. As long as it's Black and crime fiction, which some people in the past have had a hard time understanding. We're not reading Black fantasy as much as we love Black fantasy too, but this is for crime fiction, and it's gotta be Black. There are some people read books that are not by Black people, and I don't understand how that happens. But anyway, it's literally Black Halloween, but whatever. I have one more location for this readathon. It wasn't technically supposed to be done this year. She's having some trouble getting people to support her, which sucks, but we still wanted to support her, so that's what I'm doing for October, reading crime fiction by Black authors. And then, as you see on the screen, I joined another readathon, which I don't know what's wrong with me. It's called Herkid, if you've never heard of it. The hardest reading challenge you could ever do, or you'll ever do. This is hosted by Stephanie over at QWordy, and it's basically just a giant readathon full of like 1,000,001 prompts. Okay, and I read over 100 books a year, so this is not going to be hard, really, for me. But it starts in July, so it's a mid-year readathon, but it lasts a year, so this will take me into 2026. So I had to make like its own separate journal, because I can't put it in my reading journal, because my reading journal is just for 2025, and it's going to carry over to 2026. So I might do a separate video just talking about books that I'm reading for Herkid, if y'all are interested in that. But somehow I managed to have 3 different reading journals, and I made them because I like to make my journals, because I ain't got no money. But yeah, so that's kind of a rundown, update of what's going on with my reading journals, my 3 reading journals, and my reading, update for the month. Bye, guys.